Caring is one of the most fundamental human experiences we can share. It is the invisible thread that stitches us together, creating a tapestry of connection and belonging. In a world that often prizes independence and strength, the act of truly caring for another person can feel vulnerable. It requires us to show up, to be present, and to open our hearts to the possibility of both joy and pain. We were not made to go through life alone, armored and isolated. We are biologically wired for connection, for empathy, for love. Caring is not a weakness. It is our greatest strength, the very essence of our shared humanity. It is the quiet courage to see someone and say, "I am here with you." The truth is, we all long to be seen and heard. We crave the feeling of being understood, of knowing that someone else gets it. When we offer our care to someone, we are offering a piece of ourselves. We are extending a hand and acknowledging their struggle, their joy, their existence. This act of giving is also an act of receiving. It reminds us that we are part of something much larger than our individual lives. It pulls us out of our own heads and connects us to the universal human story of struggle and resilience, of love and loss, of falling down and getting back up again. Have you ever found yourself incredibly bothered by someone else's behavior? Perhaps it was a friend who constantly sought validation, a coworker who couldn't handle criticism, or a family member who always seemed to be playing the victim. But what if that intense reaction is not just about them? What if it is a mirror, reflecting something hidden deep within ourselves? This is a powerful and sometimes uncomfortable truth. The wounds we see in others often echo the unhealed wounds we carry within our own hearts. This concept can be difficult to accept at first. Our egos want to believe that the problem is out there, with that other person. It is much easier to point a finger than to turn our gaze inward. But when we are brave enough to ask the question, "What is this situation teaching me about myself?" we open the door to profound self-discovery. That friends' need for approval might trigger our own deep-seated fear of not being good enough. That coworkers' defensiveness might mirror our own inability to sit with imperfection and receive feedback. The things that push our buttons are often connected to our own tender spots, the places where we still need healing and compassion. Think of it like this: our unhealed wounds are like sore spots on our souls. When someone else's behavior inadvertently presses on one of those spots, we flinch. We react with an intensity that might seem disproportionate to the situation. I remember a time in my own life when I was working on a big project with a colleague. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah would second-guess every single decision she made, constantly asking for reassurance. My initial reaction was pure annoyance. I felt like she was insecure and wasting my time. Her behavior was a massive trigger for me, and for weeks I saw her as the problem I had to manage. Then, one day, after a particularly frustrating interaction, I stopped and asked myself the hard question: why does this bother me so much? The answer, when I was finally honest, was humbling. Sarah's fear of making a mistake was a perfect mirror of my own deepest fear. I had built my entire identity around being competent and capable. The idea of failing, of not being perfect, was terrifying to me. We see this play out in families all the time. Think of a parent who gets incredibly frustrated with their child's shyness at a party. But is the frustration truly about the child? Or is it possible that the parent is wrestling with their own old stories of not fitting in? Perhaps they were a shy child themselves and were taught that it was something to be ashamed of. They see their child's behavior not just as shyness, but as a reflection of a part of themselves they learned to reject long ago. When we start to see our reactions to others as a mirror, something truly beautiful begins to happen. The act of caring for another person transforms into a powerful act of self-healing. When we offer compassion to someone who is struggling with a wound that we also carry, we are, in a way, offering compassion to ourselves. This shared vulnerability becomes a bridge, connecting us not only to the other person, but also to the wounded parts of our own hearts. Let's go back to my story with my colleague Sarah. Once I recognized that her fear of failure mirrored my own, my entire perspective shifted. The next time she came to me with her anxieties, instead of meeting her with impatience, I met her with empathy. I said, "I get it. This project is high stakes and it's totally normal to feel nervous about getting it right. I feel that way too sometimes." In that moment, something softened in both of us. This is the magic of compassionate connection. When we care for another person's wound, we are tending to the same type of wound in ourselves. The healing we offer outwardly becomes a blueprint for the healing we can create inwardly. When we care for others from this place of shared experience, our actions are more authentic and our connection is deeper. We are standing shoulder to shoulder with another human being, acknowledging that we are both imperfect, both struggling, and both worthy of love and belonging. The ultimate lesson in all of this is beautifully simple. Being kinder to others helps us become kinder to ourselves. This is not just a sweet sentiment, it is a practical path to wholehearted living. Every time we choose empathy over judgment for someone else, we are strengthening our empathy muscle. Every time we offer a word of encouragement instead of criticism, we are carving new neural pathways in our brains. Think about the harsh inner critic that so many of us live with. It's that voice that tells us we are not smart enough, not thin enough, not successful enough. It is relentless. We would never dream of speaking to a friend the way we often speak to ourselves. But when we make a conscious effort to be gentler with others, we start to challenge that inner critic. Over time, that warmth naturally starts to melt the icy voice of our own self-judgment. Start small. The next time you feel that flash of irritation toward a family member or a stranger in the grocery store, just pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what might be going on for them right now? What wound in me is this touching? You do not have to have the answer. The simple act of asking the question is enough to create a space between the trigger and your reaction. In that space, you have the power to choose a kinder, more compassionate response. Ultimately, caring is the antidote to shame and fear. By daring to see ourselves in the struggles of others, we find a way back to ourselves. We learn that healing is not a solitary journey, but a collective one. So let us walk this gentle path together. Let us choose to care, to connect, and to heal. Because when we are kinder to each other, we create a world where it is finally safe enough to be kind to ourselves. That is a world where we can all be brave and free.